another edition of the Kaiju Kingdom podcast. We are your hosts,
Jessica Singh.
and I am Chris Seaton. Oh, Jessica. Oh, how are you this week?
I'm okay.
You're
I
okay.
am good.
You
You sounded like you were gonna lead into something.
Oh, I am leading to
With
something, but
that.
I much like when you when you're going to take a step and you think that there's another step, but you just come down on the same surface. It's more freakier than actually missing a step coming down the stairs. You fall and you're like head over ass and eat crap. For some reason, that step that it's almost like a physical mind fart when you just come down and you're just like ah. I had that moment right there. So, but no, there's a bit of electricity in the air as we are T minus I think 72 hours away from the release of Legendary's Godzilla.
Yes, as we're recording this right now, we are 72 hours away.
Oh, I got my 7 p.m. IMAX tickets ready to go. So, get myself that poster.
Yes, and I'm assuming you mean Thursday.
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing it in true IMAX,
Okay, good.
not that phony, faux IMAX that they've been putting up everywhere. I'm going to the big 8.5-story screen with the sound system that makes the speakers in Doc Brown's garage look like tea kettles next to it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my wait, which one? As we're about to get kind of stalker here, which theater did you buy your tickets for?
I bought it for the Ontario one because I work up that direction, so it was much easier and closer for me. Not only that, but
Okay.
my cohorts over at the Realmcast live up in the area too, so we're all going that night. To have the big hurrah, and then Saturday night I'm taking my father to go see it, and I think we might hit the D box for that one because he's never done D box before.
Oh, okay. I asked because I will be heading
Mm-hmm.
toward the direction of where Chris will be. I'm in Los Angeles. Chris is in Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
As for D-Box seats, there was one in Thousand Oaks and one in Anaheim. I don't know if the Man's Chinese Theater one exists anymore. I don't think so. I went to that
Did they
one
take
years
those
ago.
out?
I think they did, but I'm going to the Thursday showing of D-Box for Godzilla at the Anaheim Ultralux.
Oh, I love that theater.
Yes, and I know that Chris knows, but not to get too specific. May is my birthday is somewhere settled in the month of May.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a gift from a friend who was like, I know this is what you want more than anything. So there's this, and then there was Guardians of the Galaxy, but that hasn't come out yet. So
You got a few more months for
definitely
that.
going to be yeah, we have a few more months for that, but definitely Godzilla. So there was that. And so I am very, very looking forward to Thursday night. You'll be seeing it, I think, a couple hours before I'll be seeing it.
Oh, you guys going to like a late show?
Yeah, it will be interesting.
Yeah, that's a really nice theater, that Garden
It
Walk.
will be very interesting.
Yes. That one's right across the street from Disneyland. But yeah, it's a super nice theater. It was actually it was supposed to be like a real swank theater when it first opened. Like it was supposed to be the Orange County version of like what the ArcLight wanted it to be. And then because it opened right before the economy, hit the tank, so they had to sell and kind of restructure a bit. So, but it's still a really nice theater though. It's the only place in Orange County you can get D-Box, so I've seen many a Fast and Furious movie at that place. Let's just say that.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing better than seeing those movies in D-Box. It is a whole another world. It's like it's okay. What's a good comparison? It's like okay, Fast and Furious is like a good piece of good. It's like a good piece of pie, but with D-Box, it's like pie. Like hot pie with a big chunk of ice cream on top, just adds that much more to it. It makes it that much more epic.
It is. But warning to the wives, for those that are possibly expecting, you have been drinking, or you just get motion sickness, do not take those seats.
Oh no.
Chris and I and the D-Box company, we don't want to be responsible for any of your mishaps. So, be careful. Also, they give you a paper
Yeah, they
that
do.
actually says that if you're pregnant or you've been drinking,
Mm-hmm.
you should not be riding in those seats. However, I do know that in order for families to stick together, you can. There's 4 levels,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like no movement.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just sit next to your son or whatever and not move around. There's minimum, medium, and then maximum. Of course, nothing less than maximum.
Yeah.
So if you're going to pay that much money, I better be on a Back to the Future ride, Universal Studios style.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're looking at like an extra $8 on your ticket, just right there for the 3D and the D box. So,
Yes.
well, let's move away from D boxes and IMAXs, and let's move into I want to touch on something we talked about in the last episode. The Godzilla vs. Biollante showing at in Little Tokyo was about a week and a half ago from from the day we're recording this. So we've had some time to kind of sit on it. I did not get to go to the Biollante showing because I had to do Free Comic Book Day stuff. I know you were out scouring the Southland for free comic books. Did you end up getting everything you wanted?
Yes, I actually got every single comic on the list.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so I got all like 60-something titles or 50-something titles.
Good. How many stores did you hit up?
I only hit up 2.
Really?
Yeah, I hit up 2. The trick is bringing friends who don't give a crap about comics, and then hopefully buy them McDonald's breakfast.
Yeah, pay them off.
And then that, because there's a limit, and we understand because retailers have to pay out of their own pocket for these free comics to give out. So if a store is like every person only gets 10, you bring every grandparent you have that's still there, every parent you have, step parent, brother, sister, board friend, and each one of them can take 10 for you, and then you take your 10. So I spent a lot of my time delegating. However, I do want to say for those who don't know, that was one of the hottest Saturday mornings where I had to wait in line outside for comics. But I want to say for the first store, I was like a third person in line. The only reason why I didn't shove myself to the front was because there were children waiting, and I will not
You have
stand in the way of children in there.
Yeah.
And the other one, though, was a much more popular store, and they had a much longer line. And so I was actually in direct sunlight, so my odd half tan will be for the love of comics. But that weekend was crazy because Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, and then there was Free Comic Book Day. Then there was Godzilla things everywhere, in various states and theaters, because the Legendaries, Godzilla's coming out this week. And then Sunday was May the 4th, Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
And then for those who are in certain parts of the United States, Monday was Cinco de Mayo. Also, Revenge of the 5th. And the next day, I still call it Return of the 6th. So you have everything. You have 3 days of Star Wars. You have free comics. You had Amazing Spider-Man. You had Godzilla. So that weekend, Chris and I were busy. But I managed to go to the Friday night press conference that they had for Godzilla vs. Biollante. And it was really, really fun. There was a good number of press there. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more. I do believe that Anime Jungle, we might have more of a heads up next year, but we had Kawakita-san was there and Iwasaki-san. And, Iwasaki was there to show us a miniatures demonstration. And it was really, really amazing because it takes him 10 days to build these little miniature models, but if his assistant accidentally drops a rock through it, and they didn't film it, that basically they only have one shot to get everything right. It's hard to rebuild, but he basically showed how when you throw a rock through, 10 seconds can be slowed down to look like a building was being destroyed. And it was really, really amazing. And then after that, we moved into the JACCC, which is like the Japanese American Cultural Center. And basically when we're there, they kind of sat there along with Tetsu, who's the owner of Anime Jungle. You have both of the gentlemen that were related to the film. Then you have the president of JACCC, and then you also had the gentleman that started the 1990, I believe it was 1996, but it was like a Godzilla kind of mini film festival
Hmm.
that they kind of had in Little Tokyo and Los Angeles, and all of them were there, and we all got to kind of ask our questions and kind of pick their brains and see how they feel about the new Godzilla coming out, and also about miniatures and the difference between American marketing for a kaiju film versus international marketing of a kaiju film. Kawakita-san was actually saying how Mothra, Godzilla versus Mothra, generated a lot of female fans,
Hmm.
not only because of the music, songs, but also because Mothra is this not a butterfly, it's a moth,
Hmm.
but it's a beautiful creature, and women the female folk tend to like it, and he's like, that film actually generates the most buzz among women,
Yeah.
and I felt that was really interesting, at least from my standpoint. And then they talked about many other things, and that they are excited to see how legendary treats Godzilla for this film. They also explained that he was large. They were like, "Oh, the Americans make him so big," and I was like, "Yeah, he is really tall for this one." And it was really, really interesting. I'm hoping that they will do. I'm hoping Anime Jungle JACCC sponsors this into something that is yearly
Like
here in Little Tokyo and Los Angeles.
because the American Cinematheque actually for a couple of years they were doing like a yearly Godzilla showing. It was mostly during the run of the Millennia series. They would actually hold like the U.S. premieres like out here. So I
Mhm.
saw every film, every one of the Millennium films except for Cross Mechagodzilla at that theater. And they
Mhm.
had the director for Tokyo SOS out there one time too, so I got him to sign my DVD. I don't have his name in front of me at the moment, and I probably would just butcher the hell out of it. But yeah, so that's something I was hoping they would bring back. I know that this last couple of days, right now the ArcLight's running their showing of the original Godzilla, and the New Beverly ran King Kong versus Godzilla, which actually the Cinematheque used to run all the time too. I saw a lot of good films.
Right.
They actually
Right.
ran a rare print, like a rare 35 millimeter print of Raids Again with King Kong versus Godzilla. And the thing was, I forgot who was I think it might have been Steve Reifel that moderated that one. And I just remember him talking, and everyone around me just was like scratching their heads at the references he was making. And as I'm walking out, some guy's like, "What the heck is a gargantua?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" I actually had to stop. I'm like, Hold on, hold on. Like, you don't know what War of the Gargantua is?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, do yourself a favor, go to a video store." 'Cause this is like 2004, 2003, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's out there at this point. Just go check like some hole in the wall store. I'm pretty sure that rent it, and your eyes will open up to a whole new world. He's just like, "Can you just give me the gist?" I'm like, "It's two big Sasquatches fighting, and it's awesome." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yes, two different color Sasquatches
Yes.
to not have children be confused,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. Um, yeah, no, Stephen Reifel, he was also there for the press conference and stuff, and him and Mark Jeremiah
Mm-hmm.
talked about God of Clay,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a special screening of God of Clay also on
Did
the
they
same day at Anime Jungle. Yeah.
did they show it at the press conference too?
No, they did not. That was
Okay.
actually for Saturday, which I had missed because I was doing all kinds of things and running around. It's free comic book day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hot as a rotisserie chicken in Los Angeles. I don't know. It was like 98 degrees. High
Yeah.
heat though.
Yeah,
But,
it's getting even hotter. I was in a warehouse most of the morning. We were doing the free comic book day thing at Frank and Son's collectible show. Like we were actually giving them out. So yeah, try sitting in a warehouse just stewing in your own juices all morning as people are like swarming you for free books. Like, what do you got? I'm like, you got to come back. We're doing raffles and stuff. Like, so yeah, and I'm a man of girth and size, so I sweat profusely, even in a freezer. So it was somewhat unsightly. It's just I look like I've been like just doing rails of coke all day, and I've just had this nervous look on my face. My buddy was just like, "Dude, you're right." I'm like, "Just it's just warm. I'm a fat guy. I don't do well in the heat. That's all." So that's why the beauty was that night was like perfect. It was like 75 degrees out, and like you could take a stroll. You would never know you were roasting like 4 hours earlier.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, even at night, you
Mhm.
guys, like I was walking around with, I got really scared because I don't want to leave fingerprints and like perspire through my comics.
Mhm.
So I'm like carrying them gingerly. And even at night, you feel, it's like the dark sun was out. It
Yeah.
looks like it's night, but it feels like it's daytime.
Yeah. We're getting that way.
So,
Summer's encroaching upon Southern California. If you don't live in the area, it gets rather maddening. So
yeah.
we are in a desert after all.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to hit. So you hit the press conference. So you got to see pretty much a pre-show of everything they did for Saturday.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I missed the Biolandy screening because I was in industry. So when I got out of there, I had to skedaddle up to L.A. So by the time I got there, parked and everything, there was already a line going out the door at Anime Jungle. So and then there was like literally like five people. One dude I actually recognized from the panel we did back at Kamikaze. I'm like, hey, I remember you. You asked like 20 questions. And he was just like running. He's like, oh, you're here for the same thing because I have my Godzilla shirt on. He's like, yeah, dude. So we run out and then, bam, there's like a wall of like maybe like 200 people away. And for those who've never been, Anime Jungle is not a large store. It's a fairly mid-sized store. It's in a small kind of a indoor-outdoor mall kind of area. So it's in the indoor mall portion of it. So I kept thinking like, man, they're gonna get everyone in there because they actually have a rather large display of just stuff. They have everything pop culture wise from Japan. So I was quite shocked that they had managed to get A, everyone in there, and B, the stage they had set up for it too. That was really cool. But so they essentially went over what they showed you at the press conference. Excuse me. First thing first, though, Mark came out and screened snippets for the documentary he's working on that he announced there. So he showed little bits for of these fan films that he's been acquiring. We'll have him on soon talking about it. He's got gems. The stuff that I've seen, it's amazing. So he showed a snippet of Atragon 2. He showed a snippet of Gamera 4. He showed some scenes from a Dimension fan film. And mind you, they range from these aren't shot in like the last like 5 years. These are all from like the late 70s to mid 80s. And a lot of these are fan productions that are done very well. And then his trump card, if you will, he showed some more footage from Godzilla vs. the Wolfman, which just had people were like, wait, what is this? It looks like a Toho film. And, he got a ton of buzz going. So it was kind of funny because once he, got done, came off, I went over to talk to him, and he was starting to get, like, people were like, dude, what? I need to know more. What was that? So as, Kawakita's-san and everyone else was up there talking, like, people were just kind of like, kept coming up and like swarming around. I was like, dude, so what's up with this Godzilla Wolfman thing? So it's just kind of funny watching him kind of like, talk it up a little bit, as much as he could talk up. So they did show God of Clay, which was it's a very interesting thing. It's a kids film. That's the one thing that they kind of didn't let you know, but it does play up very much as a kids film. It's also a very big anti-war film too. But it's cool. It's just I don't know, the best way to describe. I don't know how to describe it. It's literally a piece, literally a little clay statue gains sentiency and grows to gigantic size, takes on like the Japanese military before confronting the dude that made it. That's the best way I could wrap up the plot for you. It runs about 15 minutes, so it's a cool little short though. I believe, from what I was told, it's only the second time it's ever been shown like in public. So, and this was the first time it's ever been shown in North America too. And then they had the gentleman that represents the Little Tokyo community, and he brought up stuff that I've only like heard about and read about. But back in '96 when they did that Godzilla movie marathon over in Little Tokyo to kind of bolster the attendance of the area, because there was a point when Little Tokyo was kind of like, I won't say in shambles, but it wasn't exactly the most happening place to be. It kind of like how it is today in LA. So they were like, hey, why don't we just push Godzilla, because everyone knows Godzilla, and they wanted to build a massive Godzilla mural that would be part of a show that would air, I think, every weekend, like 3 nights, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It would be like a laser show, and they would have like two other monsters on 2 other buildings that would shoot beams across each other and stuff like that. They showed actual concept art for it, which I'd never seen before. And if Toho had allowed them to do this, people will be swarming today to come see this thing. It was freaking awesome. But sadly, it was not meant to be, because Toho was just like, yeah, you can't make this permanent. Like, you could do this temporarily, but this is not, we don't want this as an attraction. Mind you, in Japan, there's a massive, almost life-size Godzilla slide that kids can go on. I'll put that in the show notes, but it's literally you climb up his foot and slide down his tail. So they'll allow something like that, but you can't do a laser light show in LA.
You make it sound like it's the most ridiculous rules that they kind of have against.
It's maddening how much Toho is protective of their character, but at the same time, just it's almost like a love-hate relationship they have. They're very protective of Godzilla because that is one of their cash cows. They still make a lot of money off the merchandising. The last few of the Millennium films did not really make a ton of money. That's why they stopped doing them. They pretty much just like, okay, we'll go to the 50th anniversary, and then we'll stop from there. And then we'll wait a few years, let interest build back up. Sadly, it didn't look like things were coming that way, because it looked like anything giant monster related in Japan was regulated to pretty much Sentai shows and Sentai themed movies. And that seems to be where the bread and butter of anything Tokusatsu is related to now. I mean, there's like at least 4 movies now featuring the latest Sentai team teaming up with like Kamen Rider or whatever Metal Hero that they had. There's like a million. They've done like 300 Avengers-esque crossover films now in the last like 5 years, because that's what's bringing in the dough. So, I mean, it's very cool. I mean, it's been something they teased for like years. Now that they're finally doing it, that's like the closest you're getting to anything like suit special effects wise. So, I mean, luckily Legendary's come along and they wanted to make this movie, because that's at least kind of putting interest back out there, far more than Pacific Rim had. So, hopefully things are turning around in Japan. I know we're getting a new Gamera film, but we'll see how that goes. So, but yeah,
you said that with a little scoff snort at the end when you were like, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know. The last Gamera film, We'll sit down to talk about it one day. I have very mixed emotions about the last Gamera film. Just like on effects wise and tone, it's a really cool film, but it completely missed the mark of what the Sasuke Kaneko films kind of did. They kind of wanted their cake of having the kids Gamera movies and having the topping that was the more adult 90s films, and put those two together. They've essentially tried to make a serious version of like a 60s or late 60s early 70s Gamera film. And while the results were pretty cool, it didn't click the way that the 90s Gamera films did. And there's a reason. It was way too kiddie at points. And I think that's, the fandom isn't the small child fandom isn't there, because in Japan, I think they're just being bombarded left and right by TV shows that going out much like what Godzilla suffered in the 70s when Ultraman was really starting to be make it big. That kids would rather stay at home and get their fix that way than go out to a movie and see something like that.
Yes, actually, Godzilla was Japan's -- fictional character until a couple of years ago. He was defeated by Doraemon, which is the blue kind of robot cat looking thing, and then it's got
they just announced.
Which is cute.
Yeah, I know.
Very cute.
Ironically, though, they just announced that I don't remember. I don't off the top of my head who's bringing them, but someone's importing Doraemon to the U.S. for the first time. So
yeah, there's a Doraemon film.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
There's that, but there's a new show too, I think, coming.
Along with Sailor Moon. So,
Yes.
Japan's nostalgia is coming back with storm.
Yeah.
Much like the United States and Voltron and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and My Little Pony. Everything coming. Godzilla is to Toho as some people feel of BBC feels towards Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Some companies see it as a love and hate, it's your cash cow, but people are there, and then when it makes money, it's like cha-ching.
Yeah.
Like Fox and all the Star Wars parodies through Family Guy.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with the fandom. At least Lucas embraced it and allowed the fandom to do what they wanted to. Like, he held or Lucasfilm at least held a fan film competition every year at Comic-Con. That was like the big Thursday night thing to do, was to go to the Star Wars Film Festival. And like, they really embraced that stuff. Like, they were all about, mind you, Lucas never said no to turning anything Star Wars into a product of any sort. I'm pretty sure if they wanted to get away with a Star Wars home pregnancy test, they would have gotten away with it. Like,
Yes.
If you're pregnant, it's literally the Death Star shows up. If you're not, it's the Death Star exploding, something like that. But,
Actually, yeah, because Droid by Verizon, the Android droid, that's a word that's trademarked by Lucas.
Yeah, I think there was like a lawsuit over that too, wasn't there?
I don't know. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, see, but he's overly protective because that was beautiful about Lucas. It's like, as long as you go through me, I don't have a problem with it. It's like they were very open about marketing it, and they're very open about sharing and having the fans really embrace it. Toho, though, gets really they get a stick up their butt about certain things. So I know that G-Fan ran into issues with Toho, when they first started out, and then they kind of subsided a bit. But there's still certain things they're not allowed to do. I think the fan stories that people were coming up with had to be nixed for a while because of that. So, and some interesting things I learned about the comic books too, which I won't go into here now. That's for another show. But yeah, Toho's they're very much like Mattel with the He-Man properties. They people want it. And people want it in a way, but Mattel just kind of won't get off they're sitting on their hands on it, and they won't give the people really what they want. They say either it goes through us or it doesn't happen at all. That's what I'm hoping the Legendary film, if it hits big, that at least Legendary will be able to dictate the American market for a few years at least. At least the next 10 years. Because that's going to be
right.
At least that's what a trilogy is going to at least map out to.
Right. No, I completely get what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, man, where am I?
A lot of people feel that way with DC too.
Yeah.
Marvel not as much, but that is a whole nother podcast discussion.
Which we just brought up like 4 different podcast discussions to be discussed another day. So the Little Tokyo was awesome. I have video from the event, so I'm editing it together. Hopefully, I'll have it up by the end of this week. So just stick to the Tumblr site or to the. I'll probably have it up on both Panzer Crush. I'll probably host it there and then run it on the Facebook page and the Tumblr page. So just keep an eye out for it. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Unfortunately my battery died right before the last 10 minutes of the presentation. So I'm looking around to see if there's any like tail end clippings. But if not, you get the most. The gist of the experience. I didn't get the fan Q&A though, so it's probably best I didn't though, because there's the sound was a little off on that. So, but I digress. Something else happened though. The premiere.
Yes, the Godzilla premiere at the Dolby Theater. There was also a 22-foot tall, made out of rubble, rubble type Godzilla that was behind the El Capitan Theater. So it was a glorious beast. For those who have not seen it, Google image it.
Oh, it's up on the Facebook page. I put it up there. I put up a lot of pictures from the premiere. So, in fact, I'm looking at it right now.
Yes, and it was great. All the Bryan Cranston, you got Ken Watanabe, Max Bornstein, Gareth Edwards, Elizabeth Olsen, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and his lovely wife Sam was there. It seemed like it was a grand time held by all.
Yes.
So it looked really fun.
Yeah, I know. I know someone who managed to go. They said, yeah, they had a blast. So, Legendary really knows how to like, just at least add add, showmanship to stuff. So they're very good about that.
Yes,
If
yes.
anything, that
No, I understand.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, it's like no, I understand. Toho was they did a really great red carpet premiere.
Hmm.
It was really something very different for people,
Yeah.
for those that were there. And I knew a couple people who went. I was not able to go because I actually had a family thing
Hmm.
that I had to take care of. But I think it would have been really amazing to have actually been there because at least if I could take pictures, then I would be able to put it up. But
Well,
sadly, maybe second Godzilla film, I will be able to be there and take Chris.
mm-mm.
We will have a better time.
Well, this is what was it? Drew McWeeny put it up. This is the second Godzilla movie to premiere at the Chinese theater, and he quizzed people. It's like, well, can you tell me what the first one was? And everyone kept saying it was like, was it 2000? He's like, no. I'm like, it was Final Wars. I was there, dude. It's like, yes, you're the only one to get it right. So, which that again, podcast for another day. But I got to talk about that day because that goes down as one of my greatest days in history of anything. So, but yeah, no, the Chinese theater just got revamped. They're putting an IMAX into the main hall, and since Dolby's got it, actually no, it wasn't I'm sorry, it wasn't the Chinese theater. It was the yeah, no, it's right there, the Hollywood Highland Complex. They actually held it in where they hold the Oscars, from what I was told. So the Oscar Hall had it. So it wasn't in the IMAX theater, which is the big. When you walk up to the Chinese theater, the actual Chinese theater is the big hall, and then upstairs there's the other theaters. They actually held it next door where they hold the Oscars. So it's literally part of the same complex, but just in the grander
Yes.
hall.
Yes, and for those who have no idea what we're talking about, you can also Google image it.
Yeah,
That seems to be my go-to answer for everything.
just Google it.
Because there has to be a picture of something, of someone, of someplace online.
Well, I
So
know.
I'm suspicious when I can't find something on Google Image.
It's like it might not exist. It might be an X file.
Yes, yeah. But no, it was really great. And then the embargo was lifted.
Yeah, the reviews started
So there
coming
was
out too.
all kinds of reviews that were flooding in. They range. They don't range like Amazing Spider-Man 2 ranges.
No, that was
but
torn
they
down the middle. Yeah, they do. There was for the most part, it's getting pretty positive reviews. There are people. There's like some nitpicks. What a lot of people were thinking that the fact that that it's a slow build, so there's not a ton of Godzilla in the first, I think, 45 minutes of the film, and then even then after that, there's like bits here and there until like the third act, then it's like I guess just a giant, free for all. That's at least what I was told by people who have seen the movie. But they said it works though, because it builds the tension fairly well. I've been hearing people complain that Aaron Taylor Johnson's a cardboard cutout character, which that's a complaint I hear for every single film that comes out nowadays anyway. So I think people are just so damn jaded with what they see now that it's like nothing appeases them. But other than that,
Right.
the only negative reviews I've seen were people pretty much just complaining that it's a movie about Godzilla, there needs to be more Godzilla in it. But from what I've seen from people who I trust that have seen it, they're like, yeah, oh dude, they're like this movie's awesome. So and these are people who don't really even watch Godzilla movies in general. They just have the generalized idea. They've seen like a few and that was it. So they're not like deep into the minutia of it. But if they're going on a rave, like the people I've talked to have been raving about it, so I'm hopeful that it's going to be really awesome. There were the book, the Art of Destruction book, got I think hit shelves early, so people have been scanning the artwork out of them, and if it's anything like the artwork that's been revealed, what of Godzilla is going to be on there is going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you mean. If you again Google image, there's already concept art and other things that are already on there.
Oh, I could tell
And
you.
it gives you kind of
You
the
can.
world that the director Max Bornstein had put together.
You could actually go to the realmcast.com where I have put all those sweet, pretty images up. So um, I'll have a link over on the Facebook page and the show notes for this podcast. So the premiere, awesome. The movies, pretty much for the most part, it's getting a very good review, at least good reviews. So it looks like that and X-Men are going to be like the big films of this month that everyone's kind of going to be at least in agreement with.
Right. And I know they did a lot of interviews. My concern with the film is everything kind of boils down to the writing, to the actual script. Because, the director can do so much, the actors can do so much. However, there are many interviews with Max Bornstein. He was saying he actually, what I admire about the fact is he saw and rewatched all 28 films.
Wow.
So he wasn't someone who saw 6 and decided to write it, or was like, well, of course I'll take I've never seen a Godzilla film, but I'm going to do it because the paycheck's really big, and I'm going to do it because it's going to be a major theatrical release. He actually went fanboyed out, did all of it. He was quoted in several interviews saying, there are always going to be purists who are going to be like, nope, don't like the movie. And there are reviews out there who actually don't like it, or it isn't what they expected it. But, when it comes down to the end, this is something that is also a movie where people who may not know much about Godzilla is going to go into watching, and you don't want to overwhelm them. But he also says when it comes down to it, Godzilla represents a certain, as long as he's, destructive and, fear-mongering into people, then that is the common foundation. Like Superman must be about hope. Flash is the conscience of the JLA team. So as long as you have a certain key foundation element there, there are ways to kind of not tweak the character, but make it so it works in that particular film. And in this case, it's a modern 2014 film. So I think in terms of fear and destruction and everything, he has pretty much captured that very well. Whether it's detail for detail what a person wants, that's different per viewer.
Yeah, but that's all.
And he knows that he can't make everyone happy. So, he was like, I did the best that I know I did. So enjoy the movie.
Yeah,
which I'm gonna have to agree with him.
Yeah, I know people who hate The Dark Knight. They hate it. They're just like, no, the Joker's like too off. It's pretty much it's just heat with Batman. I'm just like, it's like, then what will appease you? Because it's a matter. It's something that Alan Moore said, and why he doesn't watch the movies that are based on his work. Because he says, my works live and die in the format I made them on, and I made them for comic books. Now, you could go and translate them if you want, but to me, that'll never be the official version. People can like them, that's fine, but I'm never going to give him give him the time of day. Well, because he's a cantankerous old bastard. But he, as he said, these were always supposed to be just comic books. Now, purists are always going to be that way. Like when Watchmen came out, they're like, well, they changed this and changed that. To me, I love Watchmen. I thought Watchmen was one of it's one of the most faithful comic book movies out there. Now, and the thing with that is it divided a lot of people. People who hadn't read the book were like, what is all this? This isn't like a Marvel film. No, it's not, because if you had read the book, it's a deconstruction of the superhero genre. It's the same way with when the Marvel films come out and they take liberties with characters, because you can't, like Captain America, you can't have a dude whose body is made out of a TV monitor with arms and legs coming out of it. So the best thing you need to do, you have him as an AI and he's speaking through a television monitor or something of the sort. So you have to work with what you got. And that's the problem, is people are always going to bitch because it's like, well, it's not the way I saw it in my head. It's like, well, then you go make it yourself. That's why I always yell at people. It's like when they're not satisfied with something that obviously the general public has come to, it's like, we agree that this is a good movie. And somebody comes along and bitches because it's just like, no, you're all high now. This isn't good. And it's like, well, you're complaining for the sake of complaining, so that you will stand out and people will look at you and like, well, okay, so what do you want then? And if you really do think it's a bad movie, go and make your own fan film. You try and do it. You try to do a better job than what was given to the people who made it. Now, the '98 film, go right ahead and complain, because that is one of the quintessential textbooks of how not to adapt, something else. And it's funny as you say that, because when you say Max Borenstein went back and watched all 28 films, there's a very famous interview with Dean Devlin when they were getting ready to premiere the '98 film, and they asked him, like, "Did you guys do any research?" And he was talking about how him and Roland Emmerich went to Mexico to write the script. He's like, "Well, we watched the first couple of films, but then you realize they're all the same, so we just kind of went off and did our own thing." It's like, and that's why that movie failed so terribly in the general public light. I mean, it made money, but obviously it didn't do enough to garner any sequels. And now here we are, 16 years later. Someone finally said, "Yeah, we could do a better job," and for the most part, it looks like they did a better job.
Yes, if nothing else, at least the look.
Yes.
Of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. I don't.
He likes to have what I like to call the little chubby tummy. But, at least he's got that going on, and not some sort of T-Rex iguana-looking, emaciated thing that is somehow having eggs. I don't know. It's a mom. That threw me completely off in the theater. I was like, it's a what?
It's an
it's
it.
A hermaphrodite? What is happening?
That's one of the many loopholes in that film that were never... They're just like, we need to do something that isn't buildings being toppled over for about 40 minutes in this film. So let's give them velociraptors. As I said, it's the same thing Cloverfield did. It's the exact same thing Cloverfield did. When they had to move away from the giant monster, it's like, let's give them a little parasite scene. So.
Oh, you and Cloverfield.
I hate that movie.
It is a reoccurring.
I hate
it
reoccurring so much.
Hate scene
you know why? Because it built it. It was like a siren luring me out to the ocean. Little did I know that it was going to turn into a hideous mermaid creature and just lay its claws into me. It promised me such joy and just gave me such horror.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible.
No.
But, yeah, because, Max was talking about the 28 film that he rewatched. And as we're recording this now, and for those who probably don't want to fight the crowd on a Friday/Thursday night/first opening weekend, there's nothing wrong with it. I have some friends who wait till the weekend after, to watch it, just because it's less people, but it's still fresh enough and that they can avoid spoilers. There you can be able to have a quick rundown of the films that Jessica and Chris feel you should see out of that 28. And at least for our reasoning of why we feel you should watch those. But I don't know if you wanted to go first, Chris, or if you wanted me to go through my list. We said we were going to pick 5. But I don't know. I cheated. I bent the rules a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. Well, so essentially, as you're setting up, yes, if you, especially if you're listening to this and you're a hardcore fan, but you have people who are like interested. Like, I got a buddy who's real interested in Godzilla right now. Like, he's a Transformers nut, but he's just like, you got any of the movies? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what? Can I borrow a couple of them? I'm like, yeah. I will pick out what you need to watch to kind of. Educate yourself a bit before you go into this film. So that's what we felt that this segment of today's show should be, which would be the 5 films apiece that we both feel that if you're not totally into Godzilla, or someone who's interested in this film but hasn't had the background that you maybe have, these are the films that we feel that they should watch before they go watch this film. So it's kind of like it's a giant monster 101, if you will. So,
yes.
Jessica, being the gentleman that I am, I will let you go first with your picks.
Oh, okay, great. I picked my films according to how I feel people would enjoy it, whether as a first-time viewer or someone who's only seen 1 or 2. I always believe in going back to the source material. So the original Godzilla or Gojira, 1954. That should see the first one. I believe even Max Bornstein himself had said that, he saw all of them, he loves all of them. There's there's different likes and takes, but the first one, of course, will be most people's favorites. Just like Dick Grayson will always be everyone's favorite Robin. So the 1954 Godzilla film, I do believe people should watch. And for those who are still like, I don't know, I'm not that familiar with, Eastern culture or kaiju films, my next pick is the 1962 King Kong versus Godzilla. Because if we're speaking to a primarily Western audience, at least you're familiar with one of the two main characters.
Yes.
You know your Godzilla. Like, for example, for those who can obviously tell, and I think Chris has mentioned this, I am of Asian descent. So one of our Superman, or we like to say our original hero or legend, is the Monkey King, which is Sun Wukong. Most people, if I tell a friend, it's like, you should watch Monkey King movies, they would be like, I don't know, don't want to delve into, dive into that quite yet. But for some reason, you have some sort of Superman Monkey King crossover film, they might be more inclined to watch it because they already know Superman.
Yes.
It's already a character that we are familiar with. Most people know King Kong. It's not that hard. He kidnaps a beautiful blonde lady. He's on top of a skyscraper. There's airplanes flying around, regardless of whether you watch the original or you watch the one with Adrian Brody, I believe, and Naomi Watts and, Peter Jackson and all that. So King Kong versus Godzilla. Oh, it was. It was. And it had great music.
Oh, yeah. The American one, the American release used a lot of the Universal library. Like, the Creature from the Black Lagoon theme is, like, in the very beginning of the film. And then it also has a couple of other cues from some other Universal movies, too. But to me, that just added to it. I love King Kong versus Godzilla. Like, in the American version, I've seen the Japanese one. Yeah, it's good, but just something about the American one just adds a bit of flavor to it. That's just like, you got a taco, you put a little hot sauce on it. That's what that movie is to me. You got to have that hot sauce in there just to give that extra bite.
Right. Right. No, I know. I know exactly what you mean. And the next two I had picked because when people first were speculating what the other kaiju monster was, everyone knows Godzilla. They're like, oh, is that Mothra? Is that Rodan? There's a reason why people kept using those two. I mean, it turned out to be not Mothra or Rodan. It is Mutos, or Muto. However, people should know a little bit more about Mothra and Rodan and why people associate winged creatures that somehow Godzilla fights to those two. There is, and this is where if you do Jessica's final count, it's not 5 films, it's like 7 or something. There is a 1961 Mothra film, self-titled Mothra. Then, if you're just like, that's not enough Godzilla for me, or I want to see recycled footage, there's Mothra versus Godzilla, the 1964 one. It came out a couple years later, for those who want to see it. And that also premieres Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster. So, for those who are like, I don't want to just see an insect flying around that looks like a butterfly, a furry butterfly, at least you have another kaiju there. But people have to understand who Mothra is. And as we have stated earlier, if you want to, the female population seems to love Mothra. Even my mother knows who Mothra is. Again, she thinks it's a giant butterfly, but it is a moth. That is something I think is one of the real classic kaiju that everybody knows.
Yeah.
And of course, there's, Rodan, which is the 1956, the one that looks like a kind of a pterosaur, which is what some people thought Muto was. And, people really, I think that one also is another good one for people to kind of see and watch, because therefore people will kind of know, more about why people thought Mutos was that. Because in Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster, you also have King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan also. So I think that's also something that's important, along with, Invasion of Astro Monsters has King Ghidorah and Rodan. Like, basically, people, I think, should know why that character exists.
Yeah.
And so I am going down the list. There's no particular order, so I apologize if people get a little bit confused. The other one that I do really like is Destroy All Monsters,
Mm-hmm.
simply because I am a fan of team-ups, crossovers, various geographical locations. But, you know, this plot is really interesting because it's kind of like a Monsterland. I almost want to call it like a Jurassic Park. But, you know, all the different, you know, kaijus have been collected there and known. And then later on, as you watch the film, you know that Godzilla attacks New York, Rodan invades Moscow, you know, Mothra goes to Beijing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and various characters are there. You even get to see London, you know, and you get to see all these creatures together in one film. It's your Avengers JLA
It is.
of kaiju.
It's
Kaiju. I mean, I don't like Manila.
Mhm.
I don't like anything Baby Godzilla related.
Mhm.
That creature is scary to look at, in my point of view.
So wait,
but it is
well, hold on. Do you just hate Mania, or do you hate the '90s version of him too?
everything.
Everything.
I don't like little Godzillas. I don't like little Godzillas because they're just something about them is unnatural. It's like a vamplet,
Mhm.
a baby vampire. An adult vampire is fine.
Mhm.
Any vampire that is childlike or younger, 13 years or younger,
Mhm.
something wrong. Something is just wrong with that concept.
So I take it you're
But I
not a
was
fan
like,
of
no.
Let the Right One In.
No, I mean, I like the idea of it because there's a weird love story thing going on there.
Mm.
Of course, it gets creepy because, you know, the boy will grow up to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, they're the same age, but there's definitely something creepy. I don't. Jessica does not like. And of course, my other pick would be the 1974 Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. When I had told you this list earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I remember Chris was like, wait, which one? So I was like, oh, the 1974. You were like, good choice. Like, there was almost like a sigh of relief
Yes.
coming out of you. But I picked that one because somehow humans are fascinated with cyborg android versions of ourselves,
Mhm.
whether it be Terminator or, you know, some other film where there's some sort of version of yourself. Somehow we are fascinated with, currently right now in Japan, they've made robots
Mm-hmm.
that look exactly, they're very human-like,
Yes.
but yet they are, if you get up close, there's something wrong with them. They realize they're just a little bit too stiff,
It's that
and it's because they're robotic.
Yes, that uncanny
You know,
valley
but
thing.
they're- Yes, it is. And I'm just kind of like, But Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, I think, is also something that is great because you've got Godzilla,
Mhm.
or so you think it's Godzilla, and then you find out later on it's it's got metal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just something about that concept is so interesting that I think that people would really enjoy. Also, for those who are newer, when they go into a store and they're just, why do you have two figures of a Godzilla and then a silver-looking Godzilla?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just, did you just spray paint him and call it a special edition, a collector's edition? No, it's actually MechaGodzilla. So I think that is another film that I feel like people should watch. And, you know, if people have more time, I would say watch anything with Ghidorah in it because the three-headed monster is amazing. It hails from almost Greek mythology, and people love it.
He is Godzilla's Joker. Let's be upfront
Yes.
about that.
Yes, he is. Yes, very much is.
Mm-hmm.
So people would think it's Mothra or Rodan, but it is not.
No.
It is King Ghidorah. So, you know, I think that's very, very interesting. And I think if only for those who have a little bit more time,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, I think people should go and see that. But, you know, I mean, there's so many good ones. You know, because even in Godzilla versus Megagodzilla, you got King Caesar, which we talked about in another, what was that?
No, that was me making like a weird yeah. Because I'd love that movie. That is probably my all-time favorite film.
No, I couldn't tell if that was like a groan
No.
or like a I can't believe Jessica brought up that.
No,
creature.
that
Also because earlier we talked about that toy. That
Mm-hmm.
toy is currently available in Target.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who wonder, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, he's in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, I actually saw him on in a Target. They stocked up all the Godzilla figures, and there's like a ton of King Caesars, and I'm just like, half these kids, or almost, I guarantee like 90% of these kids come in and have no idea what the hell this is. They're just like,
Yes.
what is this thing? Why does it look like
Yeah.
the thing that stands out in front of the Chinese restaurant we go to?
No, I know exactly what you mean, but those are my picks.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who want to we can do a little list recap underneath the description or something.
Oh, we will.
So,
And I'll have a place, because most of these, just about all the ones we list, you can either find on, you can either get them off of, you can buy them fairly cheap off of Amazon. A good portion are actually streaming. Some are on Amazon. I know Crackle.com still has all of the Sony licensed films up for free stream on their site. I mean, you gotta sit through a few commercials, but you can watch that. I mean, it's the only place you can actually see the third Mothra film, the 90s one. Like, it's not on DVD anywhere in America, so that's the only way you can watch it. And that one has King Ghidorah in it, too, so that'd be a reason to watch it. Probably the best Mothra film, too, so.
yes, and I apologize for those who are very detailed. Chris and I, we pronounce words differently. Most likely he's right. So.
Well, no, I know for a fact I'm using outdated, slang for the monsters and stuff like that. I still call Invasion of the Astro Monsters Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, so. Which.
Yes, but those are all American words.
Yeah.
Like Ghidorah, I call it Ghidorah. I don't know. I know I'm most likely wrong.
I go off
aluminium.
Yeah, I go off pretty much what was ingrained in my head as a child when I was watching the dubs. So, that's how I was raised on it, and damn it, that's how I like it. Well, speaking of Invasion of the Astro Monsters, let me delve into my list real quick, so that way you don't have to listen to my nasally drone for too long. So I'm going to go down from 5 to 1, and these are my choices of the films I feel that these are the quintessential films. If you're going to go out and watch this film, and you're not up on your Godzilla, these are the films you need to go watch. So Invasion of the Astro Monsters is number 5. Pretty much, I think within the fandom, this is considered one of the top films. It is the only film to actually feature an American actor as part of the main cast that wasn't filmed later and edited in. This is the one with Nick Adams, and yeah, he does an incredible job in this. I just recently watched this, and he's just a gem in this film. This whole film in general is awesome on so many levels, but Nick Adams adds an air of that Western cowboy to it. He's just there's so many nonchalant scenes, and I've seen the Japanese cut. So when he's speaking English, the guy next to him is speaking Japanese, and being the actor he is, he's just like, all right, cool, just go on, I'm just gonna keep talking. I can only imagine it's like the Leone films when you watch those in their original language, and Eastwood speaking in English, and you have half the other cast speaking in Italian, and Eastwood's just going along with it. But Invasion of Astro Monsters, yes, it's the sequel to Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. But this will be a film that you can ease people into, because it's the classic Godzilla scenario. It has everything you want. It's got aliens. It's got a three-way monster fight. It's got plenty of city destruction, and the plot's actually pretty good too. And the alien invasion plot's not really ham-fisted. There's some thinking behind it. So it's one of and the effects too, I think, are top notch for the time period too. There's a lot of times when I'm watching the other films. I think Mothra vs. Godzilla and this one, Invasion of Astro Monsters, are the peak of the Subaraya effects. So check that one out. My number 4, I mentioned this because it's my favorite of the 2000s films, but also because the legendary plot seems so close to it. It's Godzilla vs. Megagius, in which Godzilla fights a giant swarm of dragonfly creatures who come from another dimension and proceed to suck the energy out of them. The only difference I think between this film and the legendary film, it does not feature a subplot featuring a gun to fire a black hole at Godzilla. The film is nuts on many ways. It's almost like an live action anime in that sense. It was at least Toho like going out of their safety zone. It's just like, okay, how nutty can we get? And they get pretty nutty, and it's pretty cool. It's one of the few of the Millennium films I go back and watch regularly, so I would definitely check that out. Number three is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the '74 one. As I mentioned, this is one of my all-time favorite films. I think it's like if I would rank it, it's in my top five of films of all time that I completely love. Um, Not only that, but this is just hands down my favorite Godzilla film of all. It's just there's a fun energy to it. It has one of the best fight scenes I consider between Mechagodzilla and Anguillus in it. I love the music in it. The Mechagodzilla owning Anguillus on many levels. The King Caesar, the fight would be with the 2-on-1 fight between Mechagodzilla and King Caesar is amongst my favorite too. There's, like I said, there's just an energy to this film that I don't think any of the other films really recaptured. I know Ryo Kitamura cited it when he was citing his inspiration for Final Wars, and I know a lot of people don't like Final Wars, but Final Wars kind of comes the closest to the tone that the '74 Mechagodzilla movie gets to. It's just a fun film, and it pretty much kind of fills in like all the tropes that people kind of have a general idea of Godzilla, especially during the '70s. But it is truly, I think, one of the finest films out there for just in my opinion. Number two, of course, is the original. I mean, you can watch either one. I hold that that the American version of it with Raymond Burr isn't as bad as people make it out to be, because even though they did tone it down, they did trim it. There's stuff taken out. They kept at least 80% of the original story. All it really was done was it was told from another perspective, and I mean, to me, in 1956, the way they were doing that, it still astonishes me to this day that A, they pulled that off, and B, they even went that route. I mean, they could have completely reshot the entire film, but they gave it the perspective from an American, and that's all it was. And they actually leave a lot of the Japanese dialogue in there. It's not subtitled, so you have no idea what's going on, but you're hearing from Raymond Burr's perspective, and you got his Japanese translator kind of giving you the gist of what they're saying, which still is astonishing. So, or you can always just go watch the original. Pick and choose. A lot of people will say watch the original if you want to get the real somber tone. excuse me, of the original. Do watch the Japanese one, but still watch the Burr one. I still feel that it is it's a great film in itself. So, and for number one, honestly, I think this is the movie that you could show. Oh, excuse me, throat's getting a little dry. This is the Godzilla movie you could show anybody, and it's like just sit down and watch this Godzilla movie, and it's Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack. I think this is the Godzilla film. If you want to get people hooked on Godzilla, this is the Godzilla film you show people. It has probably the most serious tone of at least the Millennium series. Godzilla's the bad guy in it, which is a first in I think since 1985. And not only that, but you have Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Baragon teaming up to fight Godzilla, which is just a weird hodgepodge of characters in the first place. But all the effects are done extremely well. The story's very tight. It's done by Shizuke Kaneko, the guy who did the Gamera trilogy in the 90s. But it's just an extremely well-made movie. And the sad thing is, none of the other Millennium films really lived up to the production of this film. I know that Toho took a gamble with going with the tone route that they did, but it's to this day people still hold it as the high note just in the general lexicon of Godzilla films. I think it's up there with most people who feel it's like, yeah, this is one of the best, if not possibly the best outside the original film. So, but it's a film you can honestly show anybody that just has a slight idea of Godzilla, and they'll sit there and be like, all right, cool, we get it. Because it's not mired down in continuity. they pretty much give you like an explanation for the 54 film, and then they run from there. And Godzilla's really badass in it. He's huge. He's very crocodilian. They did away with a lot of the spiky look of the last two films from 2000 and Megagius. He kind of, as I said in the last podcast, the new design for the Legendary film just pretty much looks like an Americanized version of this suit. And except this Godzilla just has the white eyes. There's no pupils, which just has him. It just got this really cool badass look. So Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Attack. That's the one film I feel that even if you're going to say, shove off on those other films, that film at least sit down and watch before you go watch the Millennium one. That will hype you up for the Legendary film. And I'm spent.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You've got really detailed reasoning into your choices.
Because I'm ADD that way. I'm also very obsessive compulsive that way too.
Well, it's good because it's things that you are definitely very passionate with.
Yeah, you don't. As I told my buddy, as my coworker, he's like, "Man, you like those Godzilla movies?" I'm like, "Man, I could school you on Godzilla like you could school me on basketball," because he's a big Lakers fan. So he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about." So I bring this stuff up. He's just like, "Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about." Like, so now you know exactly what I'm hearing when you're talking to me about the Lakers. So. So, those are our picks. Pick and choose if you will. You can always write us on the Facebook page. Say, you could if you disagree, you agree or not. Just send us a little love letter. And if you do manage to actually sit down and watch, just, let us know. And if you actually turn people on with them, we'd like to hear what the reactions were. So do let us know about that. One bit of business before we wrap up for today's show. Actually, two bits of business. First things first. Riff Tracks, the good folks who, spawned out of Mystery Science Theater, they have launched a Kickstarter. Because they want to do a Riff Tracks live event, like they did with Starship Troopers a couple months ago, for the '98 Godzilla, which is just ripe for spoofing. They have just started. I believe it goes till it's the show's set for August 14th. That's when they want to do it. They just started the Kickstarter now. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to if you want to donate. They've already raised $20,000 of the $100,000 they need to do it. It's just licensing and I think the company that they use for the simultaneous broadcast too. But if you want to see them riff on the the Emmerich film, this is the way to do it. So you can hear Tom Servo, Crow, and Mike Nelson just have their jollies at the Emmerich film if you want to do that. And another bit of business. The last episode, we initiated a contest. Part of the problem was it was our first contest we ever did, and we kind of went in flying blind. I have sat down and talked to a few other people, and I have been given a option for a much fairer contest, because I believe last time we kind of gave the deeds that we weren't allowing people who really liked the Facebook page to join in. That was very unfair, so I have found a much fairer way so that everyone can enter, and everyone has the same chance of winning. So that will go up this Friday on panzercrush.com. So you can go there, I believe, starting, I'll probably launch around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It'll go for a few days. So, and the way it will work, you can click into, it'll be a thing you can click, and you can enter as many times as you want. And the contest will end on a few days after that, and the winner will be chosen from that. And we'll announce the winner on the Facebook page and the Tumblr site as well. We are giving away Godzilla Rulers of Earth number 8, signed by Chris Mowry. He signed it specifically for this podcast, so you can thank him on Twitter. And yeah, so this way it's all fair, all savvy, and you can enter to your heart's content. So I think that will wrap it up for this show. Jessica.
Yes.
Where can they find more of our work?
Well, for all of our work,
Mm-hmm.
we are at twitter.com
Mm-hmm.
slash the Kaiju Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the Kaiju Kingdom podcast.tumblr.com. We are also on Facebook as the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. And also you can email us at the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast at gmail.com. So the only thing that's different is our Twitter handle, because there's a limited number of characters for your username, and podcast cannot be added onto that because there's too many characters.
Yeah.
But everything else is named exactly after, the title of our wonderful get-togethers Chris and I have to rant and rave about news about our different kaijus. And hopefully there'll be more of me yelling about Onibaba in the future. And you can actually find me as Jessica, and then all one word, the comic book girl, on Facebook. I would love if somebody, if before you friend me or after you friend me, Facebook inbox me and let me know that, you heard me from here and you wanted to Facebook friend me. Because I meet so many people in like a month, and I feel bad, like, did I meet you in person? Did we bump into a Starbucks? Am I the one that helped you with your car? I don't know. So I want to make sure I remember you. And, I accept your Facebook friend requests. And for those who sent me a message and it went to my other folder, I have learned my lesson. I will be checking my Facebook other folder a lot more. And I'm not ignoring you. I will find you and I will friend you. So I apologize to those that was like, we waited a month and you didn't accept it, but we followed what you said. I apologize. I'm so sorry about that. So I will be doing better. As I've also been checking my spam folder in the personal email account, I have come to notice there's many people I would have loved to connect, and sadly, weeks have passed. But, it's never too late. But, yep, that was my little side rant about those in the other folder.
Just be patient, people. She'll get around to you. She's very busy.
Yes. No, I'm trying not to skip things. So my eyes read faster than my brain processes. So I might even miss an email from my mom or something.
And where can you find more of your work?
Thecomicbookgirl.com and girlongeek.com are two wonderful sites that also has all of my other Facebook, social media, things that I am on. I am hopefully a less annoying version of Justin Bieber, but for pop culture reasons. And I have been trying to write, and definitely more consistently after this, I've been writing on the Realmcast, on various points of views, opinion pieces, and rantings of all things related to pop culture. And yeah, I don't know, the last one, I don't know if you even saw it, Chris. It was the one about Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I did see it. In fact, we garnered a lot of traffic off that piece, so...
Yeah, I'm hoping. I look forward to reading comments. Chris can say, for those who are like, Jessica, why can't we comment on you?
Yeah.
Chris has great reasoning for that.
Yeah, okay, so realmcast.com, the site I co-run, where you can find more of my work and other podcasts, including the Take Two podcast. That's a weekly podcast I run with the co-editor of the site, George Ghidorah. We had an issue with comments opening. We were being spammed to death by them, and the fact they were crippling our site. So as a precaution to make sure that our site, because we're not a massive site, we're a decent site right now. We're still working on building up to bigger. We've actually moved up to a bigger server. The problem is, though, there's a lot of spam out there, and when Google sweeps our site and they see all that spam on there, they tag us as a possible malicious site. So we had to close comments for the time being. You, though, we always Facebook every article that we put up. So if you want to leave comments, do check out our Facebook, therealmcast.com, the Realmcast on Facebook.com. You can always comment away under the article there. Just all you have to do is scroll for it. We updated like 3 or 4 times. You can always find it there. So if you really want to get into discussion, Facebook's the best way. We always put extra goodies up there that we don't put on the main site either. And that's therealmcast.com. And we have several other podcasts on there. If you like my nasally tone, you can listen to me on Take Two, which is our weekly news recap. We run 2 other podcasts one concerning Arrow, if you like the TV show Arrow. It's the Rundown Arrow. We also have one for The Walking Dead called The Rundown Walking Dead. And we also have a comic book podcast called Comics Unchained, run by Sergio Sanchez and with Kraken Indiana, as he likes to go by. So that's all things comic booky. So if you want to go, if you like what you hear here, head on over there. Give us a little love over there. We would always appreciate it. And you can always find this podcast on panzercrush.com. That is going to be the home for it. I'm aligning Panzer Crush to be the Kaiju Kingdom podcast dedication site. There might be a couple other podcasts and some other stuff, but you're going to mostly see a lot of stuff that's on the Tumblr and some other larger pieces I'll probably be writing for there, and hopefully Jessica too. And anybody else that actually wants to contribute, I'll gladly put you up on there. So, and we are actually in the process. I know I've been saying it, but iTunes is going up pretty soon. We're working on artwork because you need artwork for iTunes, and I'm not an artist. I come from a family of artists, but I can't draw worth a crap myself. So, I've got something being put together. So iTunes should be up within the next week or so. I just got confirmation today about putting them up there. So. That's coming very soon. I know I keep saying hold your horses, but it's really coming this time. So just please hold on for a little bit more, and we will have it up there. All right, and I believe that is it. As for the next show obviously is going to be the review show for the film. Stay tuned to the Facebook page. I might have the show as a call-in show. It's a matter of. It's gonna be a matter of technology settings for that. If we do go that way, I will let everyone know. I'll give you a Skype number to call into, and if you want to sound off on the show, if that falls through, I'll let you know ahead of time. And but yeah, either way, we would love to hear your reactions for the film on the Facebook page starting this weekend. Go ahead and just leave. I'll start a thread. Just leave whatever you want on there, and go to your heart's content. And then, like I said, I'll let you know when we sit down to record the next episode if we are going to do call-ins or not. So we're trying. We have a lot of other cool surprises coming up in the next couple of weeks. So do stay tuned. All righty then. All right. Well, that will do it for us for this episode. So for myself and
Jessica, thank you so much for listening, you guys.
enjoy the film, and we will see you next time.